Okay, hi, my name is Jenna Kehoe. Today is April 17th, 2023, and I'm going to be doing my presentation on the macromolecules that we've been learning about in Module 4, between the steroid, the proteins, and then the intracellular proteins. And then I'll go through the description, and then the flow chart, and the references. So, okay, for the description, after watching the Moo Math and Science YouTube video, I learned that the endomembrane system houses the synthesis of macromolecules, such as the steroid hormones, the protein hormones, and intracellular proteins. Generally, there's a pattern where the ribosomes, which are considered protein factories, which are found along the rough endoplasmic reticulum, create proteins and then transfer them to the ER to undergo some changes like folding. But this is only for the protein hormones and the intracellular proteins, because for steroid hormones, they are actually synthesized in the mitochondria and then pushed to the smooth endoplasmic reticulum before continuing on. So there's also vesicles that store and transport substances to the Golgi apparatus, which is where proteins would be stored, packaged, and shipped out. Also the lipids from the steroid, because that's a lipid here. But then they'll be shipped out to their final destination via these transport vesicles. So then these proteins and lipids are dispensed outside of the cell via diffusion at the cell membrane, which are brought there by the secretory vesicles. So to get more specific into each of the macromolecules, the steroid hormones, again, are lipids, and they belong to the endocrine system, where they are synthesized in the mitochondria when they're needed, and they are lipophilic and could easily diffuse outside of the vesicles if they're just sitting there waiting. So that's why they're only created when they're actually needed. And then these hormones are synthesized again in the mitochondria, entering the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and then pass through the plasma membrane of the target cell, where they can bind to the intracellular receptors in the cytoplasm or nucleus. Once bound, the receptor dissociates from the heat shock proteins and translocates to the nucleus, where the hormone receptor complex binds to the hormone response element, so that gene transcription and translation can occur. So ultimately, the final destination of a steroid hormone is excretion. So about 25% is excreted in bile and then feces, and the remaining 75% is excreted by the urine. So up next is the protein hormone, which is synthesized in the ribosome, and when it's secreted, it goes from the rough ER to the Golgi until they reach these secretory vesicles that will carry them to the cell membrane for diffusion. And for the protein hormones, there are two main pancreatic enzymes that digest these proteins in the small intestine, and they're called trypsin and chymotrypsin. Trypsin is vital in activating proteases that further break down the tripeptides and dipeptides until they've been boiled down to just the single amino acids, which is the ultimate destination for these proteins, to get broken down to a single amino acid again. And finally, the intracellular proteins are synthesized in some ribosomes, but they are cytoplasmic free, and that means that they never actually have to leave the outside of cell membrane to be able to function in the cell, hence the name intracellular. And they also continue to function based on the lysosomal and ubiquitination and caspase pathways. So this flowchart is kind of just a general overview of what I just said. So again, we have the nucleus over to the left, and then the rough endoplasmic reticulum is right off of it, and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is right off the rough. And then there's these little ribosomes that stick out on the rough ER to produce the proteins for protein hormones and for intracellular intracellular proteins. And then they go to the transport. They're transported by these vesicles into the Golgi apparatus, where they're shipped out, packaged, and then sent to the cell membrane, if that's where they're headed, by the secretory vesicles. And then it's a little bit different again for the steroid hormones, which are actually made in the mitochondria. Then it goes straight to the smooth ER and then to the Golgi apparatus until they reach the cell membrane. So yeah, all these little red dots inside the vesicles are supposed to be the proteins, and then the cell membrane up to the top right. and then the different organelles. These are the references I used to be able to find information on that, and that's it. Thanks.